Hello, everybody. We are live. Welcome to our webinar, Tools for More Efficient Project Controls. Sejam muito bem-vindos. It's a pleasure and an honor to host this webinar. Our goal by hosting this webinar is to show to a wide audience new tools for a better project controls. Tools such as Raildiary, which is about site diary, o diário de obras. It's a very interesting tool. And then we will talk about short-term planning with the Aphex. And then we will move on to time location software, uma ferramenta de planejamento com tempo-caminho. And then we will finish our webinar with Nodes&Links, which is a tool for reporting with artificial intelligence, para geração de relatórios com inteligência artificial. Eu sou Aldo Mattos e estou aqui junto com o colega João Dias. Eu estou em Salvador, no Brasil, and João Dias is in Denmark, in Copenhagen. Hi, João. How are you?
Very good, Aldo. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to share this webinar. I hope everyone can hear me well. So let's then kick off with the session.
Before that, João, I would like to thank our sponsors. Agradecer os nossos apoiadores, Climb Consulting, Construtora Andrade Gutierrez, BV, Bureau Veritas, Editora Oficina de Texto, Prevision, Cienge e Agilin. Without them, it would not be possible to have to promote this webinar. I would like to thank the very large number of attendees that registered. We had almost 600 registrations for this webinar, which was above our expectancy. And so, João, could you tell us the timeline, the schedule for our webinar?
Of course. Thank you, Aldo. So yes, let's jump into the webinar. Of course, this is a global webinar focusing in LATAM market and the Caribbean as well. Therefore, the time that you are seeing is from Brasilia. So we will start with a short introduction / context. And then we will jump into what it really matters, which is what we are expecting, the tools and all the technology that our developers in the room will share with us. So we will start with a digital site diary from Raildiary with William Doyle. William, how are you doing? All good?
Great, thanks. Thanks, Joe. How are you?
Very good. Where are you at this moment?
So I'm here in the UK, in Manchester.
Okay.
It's 9 o'clock in the evening, so it's great to be here.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here as well. So following the session with Raildiary, we will have Aphex with Carlos. How are you, Carlos?
I'm very well, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos. I'm the CEO of Aphex. I'm speaking to you here from London, and today I'll be showcasing our construction success platform called Planner.
Perfect. It will definitely be a great session. After that, we will jump into time location charts from TurboChart with Santos. Santos, how are you doing?
Well, thank you, Joe, and bom dia, everyone. Good afternoon.
Great. And where are you based at the moment?
I'm currently in Sydney, Australia.
Great. Yeah, it's the other side of the world. Yeah. Thank you for being here with us. And the last but not the least, we will be talking about reporting and artificial intelligence with Nodes&Links with Greg. How are you, Greg?
I'm fantastic, Joe. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Where are you at the moment?
I'm actually calling in from Zurich in Switzerland.
Oh, amazing, amazing.
So it's quite late. It's quite late in the evening here, but it's absolutely fine. I've got my my evening whiskey next to me.
Thank you for being here.
I would
Thank
like
you.
to ask the attendees to type at the chat box at YouTube where you are. Por favor, digitem aí, escrevam em que país, em que cidade vocês se encontram, só para nós termos uma ideia da abrangência do nosso webinar.
Yes, it will be definitely great to know where are our attendees. And to finalize, we will also have some Q&A session. We will try to select a few questions to basically conclude the session. So jumping into the context, of course, our idea to create this webinar, of course, it's related with the general interest in the innovation in construction at the moment. We all know that it's a hot topic, and everyone is searching for tools for better planning, better project control. And of course, South America market, it's not an exception when trying to implement the best practices. So we thought as many South American companies, construction companies, engineering companies have international contracts, that will be great to give the opportunity to see what tools are there in the market, in the international market, in international contracts that can have a lot of benefits to the planning and project control management. Of course, it's also important to highlight that, as we probably all know, a lot of clients, a lot of owners, especially in the infrastructure sector, they do not know how to distinguish qualitative and quantitative scope. And therefore, sometimes there is no clarity on the qualitative scope, and the innovation and the implementation of digital solutions end up on personal agendas. So somehow our generation, we really need to try to change this mindset. And we need to start to ask, where are your plans? Where is the project control plan? Where is the schedule management plan? Where is the risk management and the site management plan? These is all questions that, once again, these are not included in the FIDIC or NEC form of contracts. So the clients, the owners, they need to create them because sometimes it's not enough for the construction company just start innovation and digital journey without a requirement of the market. So it's very important for the clients and for the owners that they do need and they do jump into creating these plans and include them in the contracts. And of course, planning and project controls, as we all know, it's much more than Excel and having a scheduling tool. We need the guidelines, we need processes, because we need more than just to plan. We need to execute, we need to check, we need to act, and we need to replan. So it's a cycle that never ends. And this is why today, with the help of these 4 tools, we can do our job in the project controls and planning field much easier, much professional, and we can take actions much faster. So I don't think that there is an excuse for nowadays the major construction companies still relying on Excel and scheduling tool.
And Joao, what we are trying to encompass with this webinar is to show that we can better perform the P, D, C, and A with the tools that we are going to present here. TurboChart is in the P, and so during the do we can have Aphex and to check too, and then we can have the generation of reports with the nodes and links, and permeating everything we will have the site diary by Raildiary. So everything is interconnected.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I don't. Yes, I don't feel that the scheduling tool is enough, and each one of the tools that we are showing today, they have their own space in the planning and project control routines. So yes, it's very important note, Aldo. And yes, as you can see here, actually AAC International has recommended practice, specifically talking about developing the project control plans, and where it is highlighted the scheduling system, the processing system, and how it works together. So none of the tools today replace a scheduling tool, but all of them, they are a complement, they are additional to the scheduling tool and to your project controls process. So having said that, I would like to note that it's important, if you have any questions, just enter in the YouTube live chat box, make your questions, and in the end of each session, we will try to highlight the most important ones. Any comments from your side, Aldo?
No, we are ready to listen to William Doyle from Raildiary. Welcome, William.
Perfect. Welcome, William. You can share your screen at this moment.
Lembrando que site diary é diário de obras, ou como dizem aí nos países hispânicos, a bitácora.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me well. So my name's Will Doyle, William Doyle from Raildiary. I've got a short presentation today just to talk you through our product. And I'll tell you a little bit more. I'm just going to share my video so you can see me at the same time. Okay, so an introduction to our product. So my name's Will Doyle. I founded Raildiary 3 years ago in 2017. My background, I'm a chartered surveyor, so a member of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors in the UK. My background is delivering rail infrastructure projects, mainly in Europe, but also in Southeast Asia, civil engineering projects, track projects, and complex electrification schemes. All of those projects I've worked on seem to have a common theme, and that's how we deal with data and how that affects the communication within project teams. So Raildiary, we set out to fix that problem, simplify that solution, and we created Site Diary, a project reporting tool. So Site Diary is our primary product here at Raildiary. We have multiple products, but all feeds into how we collect data out on the job site and how we use that data most efficiently to move to a more proactive approach to project management. So just a short video that I would like to play just to introduce the product in a little bit more detail.
Working on railway infrastructure is not without its challenges. Programs, budgets, resources, access permissions, and contracts. Ooh. With big challenges comes big piles of paperwork and a lot of spreadsheets. And that got us thinking, what if you could simplify the whole process? What if your workforce could complete their site diaries, logging information and images, in a fraction of the time and in just a few taps? And what if that data was backed up in the cloud and available immediately to managers and senior stakeholders, so there was no lag on the important decisions to be made? We were thinking, if that system meant the quality and consistency of data was improved, then you could have an instant way of benchmarking projects and teams. At a glance, you'd know if your project is on track, and you'd have a transparent and fully auditable view of the true cost to the business. And what if some smart analytics removed the guesswork and gave you actionable insights? That's what we were thinking. So we made Raildiary. But you know, some people like spreadsheets. Visit Rail.
Okay, so that's just a short introduction to the product, but what I'd like to talk about is hopefully a familiar problem that you face in projects. And we have clients in multiple countries now, and these problems seem to be the same. So I just like to talk through them, and if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments and we can answer them at the end. So the first problem that we always try and face and resolve at Raildiary is poor quality data. Information that we get back from construction sites and project teams is not the correct standard. Key information is missing. Maybe information is illegible, difficult to understand, and just doesn't help you do your role. You could be a project manager, a health and safety person, working quality assurance, commercial. It just doesn't give you what you need to do your job properly. So how do we fix that? Raildiary is about having one source of the truth, one source of information to help you deliver your project. I'll touch on the features that help do that, but our clients have everything in one place, not lots and lots of folders, as you can see in the image in the background here, lots of paper, lots of different spreadsheets. It's having everything in the same place. The second problem that we try and solve is unproductive working. So we have great planners, schedulers, very detailed programs, but some things always change. Things get delayed, ground conditions are different, the environment's different, it just doesn't go as planned. And we're unproductive. We plan to do something and we end up doing something else. Change is inevitable, but we need to change how we record it, how we deal with it in a more proactive manner. So everything we do at Raildiary is about the plan and the actual. What did we say we were going to do? What did we actually do? And why is it different? On the flip side, when we do things really well, some projects are really efficient. We do really activities over and above that we expected, and we're really efficient. We also need to know about that so we can learn from that and replicate that across projects, across businesses, and learn from our mistakes rather than having data just stored in one place and getting dusty and never used. We're about using that data in more of a proactive fashion. The third, and we're going to talk about lots of great systems on this webinar, but we spend more time than ever copying and pasting data from one system to the other, spending more time doing admin or administrative work because we have information in so many different formats that it's just information overload, the problem of big data. So Raildiary is about giving you the data in the format that you need. Lots of our clients, I'm sure everyone on this webinar can agree, spend more time trying to find the bit of information that is relevant to them, is useful for their particular role, or could fix their problem. Wouldn't it be great if we could have the data we need in the format that we need it when we need it? So that's the problem and the solution that we're trying to offer to the industry. And that's where we can bring lots and lots of time savings to teams by just giving them the information that they need. It's as simple as that. And then the fourth problem is when we get to the end of a project and we've been delayed, we're way beyond the original schedule, we've overspent, and now we have to have some really difficult conversations with clients and internal and external stakeholders because we're not sure what's gone wrong. We don't know what has changed. And we've got to the end of the project and we get into a claim situation and we ruin relationships. It's not very collaborative and it becomes a bit of us and them. It's not working together. So Raildiary is about having that information that you need when it happens. So you can have those less difficult conversations there and then. All stakeholders know what the issues are, so they can use their expertise to intervene in a proactive manner rather than get to a claim situation, which is very expensive, ruins relationships, as I said, and doesn't allow people to move forward proactively as a business or as a project. So those are the problems that we try and solve, but it would be great to find out in the Q&A later if those are key problems for anyone else and anyone thinks there might be a bigger problem that we could potentially solve as well. So where do we add value? How does Raildiary add value? So the biggest thing that we've done as a business is focus on user experience. Emma, our head of product, that's her background. and we're working with people who are not particularly technology aware, and they're very, very good at their role. They're very good at installation, engineering elements, but technology may not be for them. So making it as easy to use, easy to input information, easy to extract information, making sure the user experience is correct is so important to Raildiary. It really aids adoption of software, and people can live and die by how easy a product is to use, how easy it is to navigate. A great example of this is introducing automation, taking away really manual, laborious processes and doing them in a click of a button, along with making sure information is logical and easy to navigate. Getting it right first time is key for any software, as people will tell you on this call. If the software doesn't work first time, it's so difficult to get adoption with on-site teams. It has to work first time, every time. Making sure it works with your business is really key. Making sure it talks to your existing systems, integrations with processes, other systems, other technologies is really important. And that allows a more of a smooth handover from existing processes that might be paper-based or more manual to more automated electronic processes. Removing the barriers to just a simple interface linked to the first two is key. A good example of this with Raildiary is that when I used to work in industry, it used to take us about an hour every single day to enter site information. Raildiary now brings us down to 14 minutes, 1/4. Making it really quick and easy for people to use is really powerful. There's lots of ways of doing that. Automation, as I mentioned, pulling information in automatically from other software, so scheduling softwares, but also really simple tools that people use on their phone every single day. Things like speech to text is a really great way of getting adoption and getting data down really quickly. We all have it on our smartphones, it's a built-in feature, and just using technology like that means that anecdotal evidence that describes issues, gives you the insight that you need, is within your document, within your report straight away. In today's world, everyone wants everything straight away. Real time is the only option. We want things now, want to be able to do something about it. So real-time reporting, having that information you need on the same day, at the time it happens, not at the end of the day, not at the end of the week, not at the end of the month. Having that information straight away in a format that's useful to you, in something that you can dig into and understand and analyze is really important. The value gained by intervening now is huge. Waiting every single day, the project progresses in a manner that's not efficient, when you could use your experience and your expertise to intervene in a proactive manner. So real-time reporting is key. Analytics, people love dashboards at the moment. People love being able to dig into kind of the granular detail. So that's really important to us, and we want that to be in the right format for people. So we joke that we don't like spreadsheets, but if people want to see a spreadsheet that they can go in and dig into the detail with, then that's the right format for them. It's all about how the user interacts with the product and the data. So those are the couple of ways or a few ways that we enter data on add value. But yeah, feel free to ask me some more questions at the end. So how do we do this? How do we implement Raildiary? I think implementing technology is scary. People think it's an expensive, long process, but it can be really simple. So we split our product into 3 areas to help people understand that. Project integration or business integration. It's got to look and feel like your product. Maybe white labeling, but just simplest things as being called the right field, have the right description, have the right logo. Customizing the product to be your product means that people adopt it. They understand that it's for them to use. There's some ownership there. They bought into the process and it really works. Integrations with other tools. So we integrate with Power BI. That's our most popular integration. But also with planning tools such as Oracle's P6, Microsoft Project, document management systems. It's got to talk to things. People need software to talk to each other without the manual process. If it doesn't, it's just another barrier. It's another process that they have to deal with. So making that really easy. The next is pre-population, allowing information that's collated in the office, planned, to be communicated to the guys on site really easily. It saves time, but also really improves the quality of information captured out there on site. So when it comes to entering data, you want to remove all the barriers. It's got to be available on multiple devices. Android and iOS, they kind of dominate the market, but be able to work on a phone or a tablet. Most people have a smartphone. So your product, your software has to work on the device that they use most often. So if you're out on site, it's very easy to use a phone to capture that data. Entering data has got to be easy as well. It's got to be simplified. So I've talked about automation, where we automate the production of an allocation sheet, so allocate resources against activity, but also drop-down menus when people speak different languages to the contract language, when the data is quite distinct. Simple things as drop-downs work really well. So don't think that the technology has to be complex. Simple things that we use every single day can do a great job. As I mentioned, voice-to-text is a great tool. We have a concept in the UK of close calls, so safety issues. We've seen voice-to-text help raise the numbers of close calls in businesses by 500%, just because it's so easy for guys and teams on site to enter data. Photos, everyone wants to take a photo. The details there, it tells you much more than words alone. Having those GPS tagged, even be able to tell you which direction they're taken, is really easy to do, but also really powerful. Infrastructure projects are usually very fast. A lot of it looks very similar, so a simple direction and GPS tag is a really important thing. And then infrastructure projects, again, are usually in remote locations, whether that be tunnels. I've got an underground case study to show you, or in remote regions in whichever country you're working. It's got to work offline. You've got to be able to enter the data in any environment. Okay, I think the final slide's missing, just apologies. Okay, reporting. So the final bit is getting that data out, using that data. So shift reports, making sure you have a report at the end of every single day is really important. But the real value is when we start to add that data together. So in our summary and detail reports, we start to kind of collate that information to form intelligence. So you can look at activity trends, you can look at how people perform in teams. So you can intervene proactively and do something about it. Dashboards are so popular right now. Everyone loves a dashboard. So having a dashboard that's personalized to you, you can customize, that you can see the metrics that are important to you every single day, every morning when you get into the office, even on your phone. It's almost expected. So I've got a short case study, and I think a couple of the people from the project are actually on this seminar, which is great. So the case study we talk about is from the 4LM project. It's a Transport for London project delivered by CPC and KN in London. So the goals of the project team here were to bridge the gap between the site-based teams and their office-based teams. Simple as that. They're in two different completely locations. They're working different shifts, some in the day, some at night, and they wanted to bridge the communication gap. The big thing for them was providing the assurance that what had been installed, and we wanted to do that digitally, not paper process, not having this manual process of creating assurance documents. It needs to be done real time. And then that real time updates, you need to be able to see, you need to be able to understand the progress. So Power BI was a great tool for them to do that. So just got a short video just to explain that in a little bit more detail.
Tonight, we're on site at Parsons Green Tube Station with our client KN. So they're currently installing cables for their 4LM signalling project on behalf of Transport for London.
And before using the Raildiary, we were using the spreadsheets, Excel, Microsoft Office packages, guys on site using the shift reports on paperwork. Having with the clients on previous projects, we were trying to find a solution where everyone is satisfied with the shift reports and the data transferred from site. Raildiary came into account and satisfied everyone. The response from the guys on site was very positive. They found it a very user-friendly app. The benefits we have so far: time saving in producing insurance documents. It's easy to use, easy to access, available online at all times. the data gets stored, both clients and contractor ourselves can access at any time. Since we have started using the app, we have seen a massive time saving with the guys on site and with us in the office. It has created a strong bridge between the office and the guys on site, as well as the client.
So on this project, Raildiary are providing digital progressive assurance, allowing both contractor and client the real-time visibility for installation, testing and commissioning.
Okay, so just a short explanation there. So when I was writing this presentation yesterday, my team challenged me to summarize the key benefits in 4 points. So the big thing we talk about is the direct time saving project teams 1 hour per day. So whether that be on site or in the office, we're trying to save you 1 hour. And those benefits don't necessarily be professional benefits. A lot of teams on site have a lot of personal benefits where they work a lot of hours, they're doing reports at home, and the benefit of using Raildiary is actually a personal one because it improves their work-life balance. You're doing reports as you go, you don't have to spend that time at the end of the day. Full project visibility is the second, making sure you can see your issues, your progress, everything that's important to you when you need it. That information has to be visible to be useful. The third is kind of all of what I've talked about, allowing you to be a better project manager. Proactively managing projects, intervening in a proactive manner rather than a reactive manner is hugely beneficial. So we provide that data and the insights so you can look at the metrics and do something about it. And the fourth is long-term learning. We've now got clients that have been using Raildiary for 2 years, and they've got data across all their projects. And now when it comes to estimate change, estimate new projects, they use their data. They don't just rely on guessing or opinion. They've got real facts to back up how they deliver projects, what the risks are, what their daily outputs are, what's labor plan, what resources required to deliver projects. So having all your site data together in one place isn't just a short-term project delivery. It's about that long-term learning every single day. So thank you much. Just a bit below my time, so it's good to finish a little bit early. But thank you much for your listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, Will. We actually spent 3-4 more minutes in the introduction, so it's absolutely fine. Well, it's a great tool. I believe a great benefit. We have.
Joao, I have a question.
Yes, Aldo. Go ahead.
Will, how does this voice to text device work?
So we have voice to text on all our devices. We use the native functionality within your smartphone to do that, and it allows you to transcribe what you say. Works really well with different accents, different languages. It's a really good tool to use. So it's one of the most popular features for our on-site teams.
All right, thanks.
And just a very quick one in 30 seconds. There is a question here in the chat, which is, does the implementation of Raildiary demands the client to invest on iPads for all users?
No. So most project teams use smartphones. Hardly any of our users use tablets. Most people use smartphones. We have mobile first design. We've designed the smallest device first, so it works best on your mobile phone.
Perfect. Thank you, Will. So let's move. Yeah, thank you. Let's move into Aphex, the short-term planning topic. In Portuguese, programação de obra. Welcome, Carlos, and go ahead. Hi, Carlos. I think you are muted.
That was a good spot. Thank you very much. Right, thank you, Will, and thank you, Joao. And hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Carvalho, as I said before, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Aphex. So today I'm here to talk to you about our tool called Planner. But first, I'm actually going to talk to you about Google Maps. So many of us use Google Maps every day. It very simply tells me how to get from where I am to where I need to be on time. That output is simple, but if you imagine the service that sits behind all of that, it's actually super complex. So many different routes that could be taken, each made of seemingly infinite combinations of segments. Each segment having an amount of time to travel based on distance, speed, and traffic. But in the end, we get very good directions and quite accurate arrival times. So how does this happen? In a word, it's data. But deeper than that, it's the type of data. Google are not estimating my trip duration based on other identical trips. There would be few that have taken that exact same route with the same conditions in the past. They are breaking down the route into segments and using the performance of all of their users to build up a complete and custom route for me. This continues through the journey as they navigate us. Changes in either live conditions or our ability to follow the right route can be identified and corrected. And this is because Google is monitoring our trip progress and has the perfect interface to deliver interventions to keep us on track. But this isn't how it's always been. Some of you might remember how we used to do it. We used to get out a map. We used to find our origin and our destination. And from pure instinct or gut feel, we would say, yes, this is the shortest route. Absolutely no understanding of real durations, of alternate routes, no understanding of traffic, just yes, this feels right. We then guess a departure time based on a hunch from traveling to nearby areas or similar distances before. If we were really good, we would think about the time of day and make a fudge factor for traffic. And then we're off, map on the passenger seat, pulling over to check the map very occasionally, or when we finally realize how very lost we are. If you're lucky, you had your partner in the car. If you were really lucky, they'd be good at reading maps. Either way, it's amazing how far you go off course before you pull over and study the map. So what's that got to do with construction? Today in construction, we are managing billions of pounds worth of work, highly complex work, and we're forced to do so with the equivalent of a map. So you may be asking yourself why. Because we lack the detailed level information and the tools that keep us on track when we make a wrong turn. To elaborate, most of us in this room, we have built roads, buildings, tunnels, or bridges before. We know that the answer to how long Bridge A will take to build is completely different to Bridge B. Other than the fact that they're both bridges, large projects have very few similarities at global level. Designs are different, sites are different, teams are different. Knowing the duration or sequence of work for Bridge A has limited relevance in helping to manage Bridge B. So what do? We break it down into components, small enough components which become replicable from one project to the next. Not just bridges, but across all projects, columns, precast decks, tarmac. That's when you realize there are two substantial problems. Firstly, most of our data generated by projects, typically in master schedules, is too high level, lacking the component level activities and any real understanding of issues. Floor 3 fit-out duration doesn't translate to another project. That information sits in engineer spreadsheets, whiteboards, notebooks, and site diaries. Secondly, even if we have that information, we lack a solution to use it in a way that improves performance. We use critical path method on all of our projects, but even if the information is updated monthly, by the time it's briefed to management, it could be another week or two before our first chance to see really objective data. In Google Maps language, we are looking in infrequent snapshots of overall trips, then trying to correct a wrong turn taken weeks ago by going faster in the future. It's pretty clear that's the crazy way to manage your travel. So Aphex Planner. Planner is a construction success platform. We provide a simple tool that delivery teams love to use to manage their short-term plans. And we supercharge those plans with unique ways to communicate them to the entire site, and we save the whole team time in the process. On top of that, we track progress of the plans to prompt and record delays whenever they occur to build a granular view of performance across the project, its teams, subcontractors, and areas. And we organize and present the performance information in a time and place that teams require to make decisions. There are so many moving parts of the project and so many deadlines that teams need to keep highly focused on tomorrow and next week. They rarely have time to dwell on what happened, let alone take the time to record it. We believe our job is to give construction teams superpowers by being an assistant that sees and remembers everything across a project so that you don't have to. Now I'm just going to jump over to Google Chrome as I'm going to give you a bit of a live demonstration of the tool so you can see it for yourself. Joao, could you confirm that you can see Chrome now, please?
Yes, I do.
Great, thank you. So this is Aphex Planner. It's a completely cloud-based tool which is accessible directly through your browser. There's no setup, there's no installation. You simply log in and off you go. What you're looking at now is our Gantt chart, and this is the core of the system. And this is where the team will work in a collaborative environment where everyone is working in the same schedule, removing the need for engineers to have their own spreadsheets in their own SharePoints or folders, and not having that collaborative element of everyone having the same plan. Now, as I mentioned, it is a short-term plan. It's not designed to replace your master schedule. It's designed for your engineers, your package managers, for your team to develop their short-term 2 to 12 week look ahead. Now on the plan here, on the screen here, you can see this sort of set of activities. Now this tool caters for both bottom-up and top-down planning. So it's up to you whether you build your plan in-app or you can import from your master schedule into the plan, which effectively pulls in summary bars, which the team then detail out to tasks. So if I had a build concrete column activity from the master schedule, I can then have 4 activities, which is to tie your rebar, pour your concrete, formwork and strike. So it's a very simple way for the team to understand their plan in detail to deliver those works. Now I'll give you a high level sort of overview of some of the output, just so you can see it from a visual sense. So one of the key aspects is every task within our plan has a location. So if I click on any location, you can see at which area of the layout or the GA or the floor of the building, where is activity happening? And this allows us to do 2 things. Firstly, clash detection. If you see this bar in the future has gone red, that means that 2 activities are planned in the same place. And the tool simply highlights this on the screen, so I can change the schedule of that activity to remove the clash from that job. And the second purpose of this is to give you a sequence deck. So this tool visually shows you every activity happening today on each of your drawings. So if you see we're on the ground floor here, I can see the name of each activity, the subcontractor performing those works, and the duration. And on the bottom, I've got a simple timeline where I can go through and see all the activities being scheduled on the job. And this is to be able to communicate the plan. So the team build the plan in the office. They can then brief site through a projector so that everyone understands the plan and the safety constraints. And obviously not everyone has projectors on site. So if you hit print, we will give you a simple sequence deck. And this is all automatically generated. So you don't need to use Microsoft PowerPoint to produce these sequence slides. Back on the plan, we will overlay certain sets of information, such as baselines, understand where your bars have slipped week on week, typical look-ahead schedules where Microsoft Excel, where you have 2 bars for each activity, and this shows you any slippage week on week. We also have resource overlays, so you can see all of the labor plant materials attached to each activity. You've got your timeline at the top showing you the full number of men on site at any given day, and we automate the generation of things like histograms. So all of this information is in one place, and the project can pull it all together to make sure they're delivering a plan that works for the project. Now, the most important part of this tool, in my personal view, is the record. Every activity has a status. Did I complete? Yes or no? And if I didn't complete my activity, what is the reason why? And this ensures that we collect status information to understand performance. So this activity here, if I extended the duration, and this is in the past, so it's been actualized, it will say you have been delayed, please tell us the reason why. So I can say, right, there was a temporary works issue. When I hit OK, you can see it marks up the record with a status. So you can see every lost shift, whether it completed in the past, and what are those reasons. So it's the principles of Last Planner to ensure that we collect these statuses. And finally, we have a very simple dashboard that shows you where all the delays are happening on your job. Some of our larger projects, we're collecting thousands of lost shifts every single month because every single task planned have to go through that mechanism statusing. So this gives the project manager a snapshot of where they need to focus their time in order to improve the project. So you can see on this dashboard, our most common reason for delay, is temporary works. So you can see we've got 9 days of delay assigned to this project. And this all allows you to dig right into the data to be able to understand the project performance. And Planner is multi-project for each user. And when you have a whole bunch of projects across, say, a business, we wrap that information up for you and give it to you on a corporate dashboard so you can understand performance across the entire business. I hope that makes sense. It was a very sort of quick overview of the tool itself. If anyone does want to have a full demonstration, please do reach out. We'd be happy to book that in for you. And we can go through the actual mechanics of the tool itself. But for now, I'd like to thank you very much for listening today. I don't know how I'm doing for time. I think I'm okay. Yes. And I would love to have any questions.
Yes, thank you, Carlos. Great demonstration. I might jump into some questions here in the chat, starting with one question from Marcio Santos. This plan has interaction with Microsoft projects?
Yes, so we import either through XML file or by Excel file. So either of those, they can be pulled straight in from Microsoft Project, from Microsoft Excel, from P6, Asta, Synchro, any of the typical schedules.
And actually a question from me. So basically, when you arrive on site, you import, let's say, the contractual schedule, the contractual program into Aphex Planner, right? Yeah. And then from that, you start to detail activities. And do you also give full access to the full team, to the subcontractors? How do you usually set up the access to the team?
Yeah, so projects work in different ways. I'd say probably 90% of our projects, which include the bigger ones such as Tideway, HS2 and Crossrail that you can see there, they do import from master schedule, and then they assign activities to owners. The project admin, so the person who's in charge of the tool, has the permission to give people different types of access. So whether they can edit their own plan or a plan, whether they can edit other people's plans, whether they can configure settings, it's all completely up to you on who should be able to edit what. But everything is visible to everyone. It's about permissioning on who can edit those fields.
Great. And there is also here Carlos Nascimento asking, what about integration with P6? Do you use an API? How do you do this integration?
So we import XML files. So you export XML from P6. Oracle are not very good at allowing you to tailor that XML file. When you export to XML, they give you everything. So our import process allows you to configure that file. So we will allow you to choose a date range. We will allow you to choose a WBS or an activity code structure. We will pull in your calendars, your WBS codes, your logic, and everything goes into the plan. And typically a project will pull in 12 weeks at a time and repeat the process every 4 weeks. So there's always sort of 3 months worth of data in the plan.
Okay, great. I'm not sure if Aldo has any question, any comment. Aldo?
I think he's on mute.
Yes, probably.
Yeah, okay. I have a question. This is typically a tool for contractors. When you implement it in a company, in a construction company, does the owner have access to it too, or it's just for the contractor?
It's for all tiers. So we have, on the big clients you see here, they will have client representatives as members of the tool. Ultimately, the person who pays for the tool will decide who they want to add to the tool. So if the contractor pays, if they're collaborative, generally they'll say yes to the client. You can be a user. Some of them allow the subcontractors to actually build their own plan in-app. Some of them, it's just the contractor. It's completely up to the project. Typically, we will sell to the contractor. They're the ones paying the bill, but they then have the view of who do we increase the user base to, because the real value is that the whole team can see the plan. They can understand what's going on. They can understand the performance. It's not good to sort of keep it to like a master schedule is just planners. This allows you to really communicate the plan out to the team in both Gantt charts and the visual layout that you saw with the sequence deck. So it's about how can you ensure that the team really do understand the constraints, the safety aspects, and the activities happening around them.
Excellent, thank you, very impressive.
Yeah, and I think one of the main benefits is you bring the visibility of all tasks to everyone through a browser, right? I assume that you don't need to install any software. You can access straight into Google Chrome, for example.
Yes, there's no software. It's plug and go. If you go onto our website, you can go straight into the tool. We have a completely free version. The free version is fully featured in terms of planning, but we restrict the exporting of data. So it allows projects to try before they make any sort of purchase decision. And it's very simple. Everything is around simplicity. It's not P6. It's not designed to be complex. It's about engineers, package managers, supervisors doing very concise detail.
Great. I think we have also 1 minute. Just a final question from the live chat.
Okay.
It's Valentin Mazurkevich, which is Aphex at some point will have collected a huge database with durations for typical activities. Is there room to use these for artificial intelligence at some point?
Yes. So with back to the Google analogy, the last part of that was around interventions. So yes, we have a high fidelity set of schedule data. It's much more detailed than a master schedule. And at the moment, we are focused on showing the project manager where issues will happen with things like our clash detection, understanding performance to know where you should focus your energies. But ultimately in the future, yes, that data set will allow us to prompt people and really sort of warn them that maybe their plan is insufficient in terms of resource or duration, or we already have weather built in. So it can sort of, if you're going to be pouring concrete outside and there's lots of rainfall, that's where we want to get to. But as you can imagine, you want to have a huge data set to make it more accurate. So we're collecting at the moment, but there's a lot we can do with that in the future.
Great, thank you, Carlos. Also another impressive presentation. Thanks a lot. Let's move then into TurboChart with Santos. Santos, you are still, yes, now I do.
Thank you, Joao, and thank you, Aldo, for the opportunity to present. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon for everyone, wherever you are located around the world. Can you see my screen and hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. Okay, so let's dive into the presentation. Just a little bit of background about myself. I am a planning and scheduling professional, approximately 20 years of working in the field of planning and scheduling. I'm also co-founder of Linear Project Software, which has developed TurboChart, the tool that I'll be presenting on today. The picture there is of me in New York. There is a reason why I'm posting that picture, which we'll see in the next few slides. The contents of the presentation today, I am going to cover a fair bit. Firstly, what are time location charts and what are the benefits of using them? And then I'll talk a little bit about how we actually can create them using TurboChart combined with a P6 schedule, for example. Just before I continue, I find it fascinating where innovation and technology is taking the construction and engineering industry. I'm very humbled by some of the amazing technology that's being presented, such as the ones we're seeing today. To some extent, I think TurboChart's quite a simple product in comparison, but I just wanted to highlight that time location charts or location-based planning is not a new technique. In fact, it can be traced back almost 100 years or possibly even longer. And the example I have showing on the screen here is the Empire State Building, was actually constructed, the steel installation used a method of location-based planning, and this was in the 1930s. So just to put some context, that the concept and the principles of using time locations or location-based scheduling is nothing new. We're just putting a new technology approach to how it's done. So further context, what do we use project schedules for? Project schedules get used for lots of different reasons. It's not a singular use tool. It's used for planning, for management, for reporting. Basically anything, any piece of information that needs time phasing on a project relies on the project schedule. So project schedules and project planning is a core fundamental element of managing projects. Schedules should not be developed in isolation. You may have heard of the term of the hero planner or the hero scheduler who believes that they can solve the entire project's problems by themselves. This is normally not a good idea. We generally need the team buy-in and collaboration to make a schedule work across the entire project. We need everyone on board with the project. And to that extent, communication is probably the single biggest factor in establishing an accepted project schedule. And we've seen, again, you'll see all the technology, all the innovation that's being introduced into construction and engineering is about improving communication. Ultimately, it's about improving communication and gaining the buy-in. However, when it comes to scheduling, this is typically what we end up with. Lots and lots of paperwork, lots and lots of information and data. You've probably sat through a session like this where you'll see Primavera on the screen. It'll be scrolling up and down. Even as a planning and scheduling background professional, I find this quite boring. You know, this is not, to me, an interesting way of viewing a schedule. But when we have to present to people who may not have access to computers or may not be interested in viewing the schedule on Primavera, we make things even worse by generating pages and pages and pages of Gantt chart outputs. Again, not necessarily the best way of communicating and explaining the schedule. So there is a better way. There is an improved way of doing that, and it is ideal for what are called linear projects. I like to use the idea, to me, the benchmark of a good schedule is it being used? That's the single measure of whether the schedule is being successfully implemented or not. So this is a line that I've stolen from Murray Wolf in a book called Improving Faster Construction Projects with CPM Scheduling. Create schedules they will actually want to use. Okay, so what are linear projects? Classic examples of linear projects are highways, tunnels, railways, and even vertical high-rise projects. The common aspect of all of these projects is there is work that is spread out across the physical locations over which they occur. It could be a linear horizontal alignment, such as a railway, where the work progresses from one end to another end. It may be a vertical high-rise building where it's generally in a upwards direction. But the key aspect is that the work progresses along that location alignment. You may have heard of time location charts with different names. There's many different terms that all generally mean the same thing. Time distance charts, lines of balance, linear schedules, velocity diagrams. They all generally share the same aspect, that they're about the work being spread across the physical area. So let me just explain a little bit more about how we use time location charts. Typically, a traditional scheduling output is presented in this format, where we see the time axis on the horizontal and the vertical axis is some form of a work breakdown structure, essentially placing each task on one line. However, let's consider an alternative presentation where instead of a work breakdown structure, the vertical alignment is represented by a linear axis representing that linear alignment. So from the start to the end of the linear alignment. So consider a highway, for example. We will have kilometers or meters of work as the linear axis. Onto this axis, we then place all our scheduled tasks. So the tasks then represent some further information such as when the task occurs. We have a start date and a finish date, but we also have a start location and an end location value. And that then produces a lot of powerful information, which I'll explain over the next few slides. We may use different shapes to represent the different types of activities that are occurring, and we may also use different colors that then demonstrate the different type of work as well. So we might say the green represents excavation, the blue represents backfilling, while the orange color may represent testing. This is completely up to the user or the project to decide how they display these various elements. Typically, we also present these time location charts with the linear axes on the horizontal and the date or time axes on the vertical. But again, the software will allow you to specify which direction or which rotation you want. But I generally find horizontal axes to be the linear element, just to occupy a little bit more space. So why do we like to use these time location charts? Essentially, one single chart can replace multiple pages of a traditional Gantt chart. The example that you're seeing on the screen here is about 340 construction tasks presented on a single page. If I were to print this in what's called an A3 page format, I would typically need about 10 pages of information. But all of this is being represented on one single page, and it's a very powerful technique for presenting that information. So some of the benefits that this then creates is we can understand elements such as the work sequencing. If we were to follow the directions of the lines, we can clearly see which direction and how many crews are working any particular type of work. We can also look at things like where is the work not occurring? This could be due to many reasons. For example, if there's a shutdown period or a holiday or a seasonal break. The angles of the line, just to come back to it, also indicate your production rates. Steeper lines generally mean faster production rates, whereas a shallow line represents a slower production rate. So you can always ask the question about why are there differing production rates, or what is the cause for that difference in production rates. We can also consider where tasks overlap. We can ask the question of, does this represent a clash? Is this something that physically can occur, that multiple activities or multiple tasks are occurring at the same time and the same place? It's also a good, useful check on the logic that has been developed in the schedule. Have we simply made a mistake? Have we just put in the wrong type of relationship or left out a relationship from the schedule? This is typically very hard to look at when you're just viewing a traditional Gantt schedule. We can also do a very quick type of resource analysis by simply counting across the page. So if you say how many of the green tasks is there occurring in 1 month, we can say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other benefit compared to doing just traditional histograms for resources is we also have an understanding of where the resource is being applied on the project, not just the number of. We can also use time location charts for schedule comparisons. So just like using a baseline schedule, we can do a comparison that says what was our original schedule compared to where our current schedule indicates, or you may have different scenarios. It's very easy to overlay multiple schedules on top of one another to see the differences. Okay, so to present some examples for you. So this is an example of a vertical high-rise project. I did mention that vertical high-rise projects are a type of linear project. So this here is representing approximately 450 tasks. It's quite a high-level summary, but the key element to look at is we're actually presenting the entire project schedule on a single page. This is not something that you could very easily do using a traditional schedule. Another example of a much more complex one, a 40-kilometer motorway project. This chart's showing you an example of all the earthworks, paving. There's a section of tunnel towards the left-hand side of this chart. Again, this is approximately 4 years worth of work summarized onto one page. And finally, a relatively simpler example of a segmental bridge. With this time, the date axis is running vertically up the page. But again, we're seeing all the information in one page. So how can we produce these time location charts? You may have seen these being used in the past. You may have used some sort of a manual method. Certainly people have developed them in Excel or in AutoCAD or other various drawing applications. The issues with using this method is they're obviously a manual or somewhat minimally automated, but they generally can lend themselves to lots of translation errors. There's limited abilities in presentation, meaning you can't very easily change the chart or filter for certain elements of the work or limit to a certain date range, etc. And they are what I call non-scalable. So what I mean is you're often having to create these from start on every project that you want to apply them on. At the other end of the extreme end, there are some specialized tools specifically for generating time location charts. And they're ideal for generating these linear project schedules where you can actually even manipulate the schedule using a time location chart and do a forward and backward calculation. The issue with using this type of technologies, they're expensive, they're complex, there's quite a lot of learning involved. And from a practitioner's perspective, my concern is that they're always duplicating or creating an extra version of the schedule rather than the master integrated schedule. And then there's always issues with having to reintegrate and tie it all back together or working with information that may not necessarily be the latest. So there's a hybrid method which is a method that I've certainly used throughout my planning and scheduling career, where we actually append data to existing schedules to generate just the chart. So it's purely just a visualization technique, but the idea being that we generate that information from the single source of the schedule and we update the time location chart as the schedule gets updated. And that was the basis for why we generated TurboChart. Just a short little animation on the screen here that captures the essence of what we're doing, which is take the information from the Gantt chart and present it in time location format. And as the Gantt chart is updated, we can update our time location chart very quickly. So just some further information about TurboChart specifically. Why did we develop it? Well, we essentially had two fundamental ideas behind TurboChart. One is we wanted TurboChart to work with your existing scheduling tools, a number of which are shown on the screen here. So Primavera, Microsoft Project, Asta Power Project, essentially anything that can be provided in tabular data format can be presented in TurboChart. Because we don't provide the scheduling capabilities, we expect that you use your scheduling tool for that. TurboChart is very quick to learn and very easy to use. A number of our users say it's only taken them hours, and within a day, they've been able to start visualizing their project schedule in time location format. So just to do a very quick demo, I'm actually showing a video here of how a Primavera schedule can be tied to TurboChart. So I'll just press go to make that start. So here we have a typical schedule. We create some additional user data fields to indicate where the tasks are occurring and how they will be displayed. So these are known as a shape code and start and end location values. And we populate that information against the tasks that we want to see, not necessarily all of them. In TurboChart, we essentially map to our project schedule, we map to those extra data fields, and the information gets imported. We then define how we want the tasks to appear, what we call a shape code library, which the colors and shapes. And that's it. That's essentially our, once our chart is developed, and as the schedule is updated in Primavera, so we're seeing an F9 or a recalculation, the schedule has moved. In TurboChart, we essentially just press resync, which then grabs the latest information and updates the chart. Just to show you again, where the comparison, you can see the two different versions of the schedule there. That synchronization the video showed you there is actually in real time. I didn't speed that up in any way. So that is essentially how quickly you can update your chart based on how the schedule gets updated. I think that's the essence of my presentation, Joao. So just some more information about our software. We do offer a 14-day trial and monthly or annual subscriptions. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact myself or the email address that's on the screen. And happy to answer any questions as required.
Yes, thank you, Santosh. Great presentation. I actually have a note. I actually saw a time location for the first time in my life with actually back in 2013 in Trinidad and Tobago with Aldo Mattos. I was a junior planner in the beginning of my career as a planner in a huge highway construction project. I think the largest project in the Caribbean, and Aldo Mattos came to support the planning team. And the first thing that he did was the time location. And what a great surprise. We could check productivities, work gangs, everything in a single page. So yeah, a note to Aldo Mattos. I have some questions to you. The first one is, do you usually see the clients or the owners asking for this tool in the works information, in the contractual requirements, or are the contractors just preparing it on its own initiative?
So usually we see the latter, where it's the contractors who develop these tools as a way of managing the projects for themselves. They use it as a tool for optimizing their schedules, and it gets used for a number of reasons, for the schedulers and the planners to understand their schedule and obviously improve it, but it also gets used as a communication tool. I am now seeing, I guess over the last few years, more and more projects are asking to see a form of a time location chart. Sometimes it's very specific in what they expect to see in terms of the method that produced and the tool that gets used, and others are a bit more open to just saying we just want the chart. I've not seen a situation yet where the client has said we only want a time location chart, and I can understand that, but certainly for contractors, it's definitely a tool being used, and we have a number of customers who've even gone so far to say any linear project that they're involved in, the planning and scheduling team must develop a time location chart for internal communication and reporting to senior management and steering committees, etc. So I think that's a sign of how powerful these tools can be.
Santosh, I'm a big fan of time location charts. Here in Brazil, we call it tempo caminho, time path. And I was going to tell the same story that Joao told us, that I was hired to validate a schedule. And I had a P6 schedule, Microsoft a project, I don't remember now, 5,000 activities. It's impossible for someone to validate it, to see how feasible it is. And so the first thing I did was to derive from that schedule a time location chart in order to see production rates, conflicts, and all sorts of things. And we could detect lots of wrong assumptions by the planner or the planners who worked on that schedule. And this kind of tool is important too when we have a claim or an arbitration or some kind of dispute, because it's a very visual. It's a visual tool where we can show actual versus planned interferences, idle time, all sorts of things, right?
Absolutely. Yes,
Indeed.
definitely. Yep, and we have the software that we've developed has been designed to be used in such instances. We have had one particular customer who told us they presented a delay analysis where one time location chart was developed in Primavera, and another was developed in Microsoft, and a third set of data was just actual records kept on a spreadsheet. And using our tool, they were actually able to integrate all three elements to build that story, which is so much about delay analysis, is about explaining the story of what was originally intended, what delays occurred, and finally how they resolved the issue. So as you quite rightly said, it's a very powerful technique for explaining schedules, even to non-schedulers, especially for non-schedulers.
Yeah.
Indeed. Thank you, Aldo. Thank you, Sanchos. Let's move then into Greg with Nodes and Links. Hi, Greg, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yes, I do.
Wonderful. Then I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Yes, perfect.
Right, here we are.
While you do that, I just highlighting a lot of comments congratulating this webinar. A lot of people with very nice reviews. Yeah, thank you everyone in the live chat.
Wonderful. Then what I'm going to hopefully do over the last 20 minutes before we get to the Q&A is actually set out a bit of a vision for the future of where project controls is going, and more specifically, where complex project management is going. What I'm going to do is talk you through the investment thesis of quite a number of venture capitalists, and then I'm going to dive into some of the more specific elements of the artificial intelligence that we're using. And apologies if the background's quite dark at the moment. Like I said, it's late at night here.
No problem.
So this is me back when I was a younger man. I'm not too different now. Just imagine a beard and much more grey hair. But what I used to do is I used to build these. These are the Astute class nuclear submarines for the UK government. They're around £1.5 billion each. They take 7 years to build, and they're the precursor to the £2.2 billion Dreadnought ballistic class submarines. They are complex, hugely complex engineering endeavors, but even more so complex project endeavors. So the shipyard had around 6,000 people on site at any one point in time, and there was a list of over 10,000 suppliers down to level 2. Below that, obviously, it gets a bit crazy. What I realized during this time in the submarine yard and across a number of projects are these three things. The first is that the nature of projects is fundamentally changing. So what we're seeing across the entire planet is more complex, more interconnected and integrated programs. Now, these can be interconnected and integrated because the engineering solutions are more advanced themselves, or just because, for example, programs are being accelerated or required to be accelerated. There's also greater numbers of projects, and projects are increasingly becoming more digital, and this webinar is a perfect, if there's any evidence of this happening, it's this webinar. What more digital projects are producing are digital twins, so the equivalent of projects on software and on cloud. The second is the fundamental nature of work is actually changing. So if you think back to when we were all children, information technology was very, very different than it is today. And if we think forward to when our children are in the workforce, how they fundamentally work with each other, how they interact, and how they work with technology, that's going to be very, very different too. And then the final point about the nature of technology is changing. Now, I'm going to try and be simple without being simplistic here. In technology, there's been one stream of technology. There's been three big epochs that have happened, and it's specifically around software within businesses. The first epoch was where paper went onto computers. That is the birth of Microsoft Office. It's the birth of the very first word processing. It's the birth of Excel, etc. That was in the 1970s, 1980s realm. Epoch 2 is when software went onto the cloud. And the advantages of the cloud is that you get instant access and you can collaborate between multiple people. Now, this is the birth of businesses like Salesforce in the 2000s, and it's the birth of software like Google Docs and Google Sheets. The third epoch has really only just begun, and that is putting intelligence onto the cloud. So this is putting people's jobs onto the cloud. Now, in some industries, this is going to be fully done, and that is automation. In other industries, it is not going to be done because, quite honestly, artificial intelligence is actually not that intelligent. It's very good at processing a large amount of data and very good at seeing patterns. It's very bad at knowing contextual knowledge of the world. So, I'd look to an example of this of Tesla trying to develop autopilot and them bringing out their Cybertruck and then actually looking to bring out freight trucks. That is fundamentally automating a large amount of the job of long distance truckers. In the project controls environment and wider project management environment, we're going to see a huge amount of change. How that change is going to pan out, that is still up for debate. There's going to be large amounts of roles that are automated, but it's my opinion that actually more is going to be augmented. And what augmentation is where machines and people actually work together very, very closely to enhance each other. And ultimately, what we create is more informed, more intelligent people making more informed and more intelligent decisions. And this is everything that we're trying to figure out right now. So this is where it really starts. I've got a couple of screenshots here of the cloud-based platform that we've released at the moment. This platform has been developed with some of the most complex projects in the United Kingdom at the moment. So with businesses like Rolls-Royce, BAE Systems, Highways England, High Speed 2, Cavendish Nuclear, etc. We've been spanning all sectors, trying to deeply understand how project management is going to change with the application of artificial intelligence and cloud technologies. What we're looking at here is actually just simple visualization. This is actually the start of the whole journey. It's a visualization of an entire Gantt chart. Now this one, if I remember correctly, is about 16,001 activities, something around that, with about 24,000 relationships. So it's a very big program. And what we were able to do in this scenario was to create a single visualization that would allow anybody, from a planner to an engineer, to a cost estimator, to the project director, to actually go into and explore the complexities, the flow and the build strategy of their program very, very simply and very, very easily. This next element, it may look actually quite simple, and it may look quite straightforward, being a table. This is actually under a £2.3 billion business case with HS2. HS2 has a schedule risk budget going on around £5 billion in the UK. The total project budget at the moment is 106 billion. Now, the schedule risk budget is there to cover all of the costs associated with delays to the contracted position, be it P50, P70, or P80. The way that they go about this process, like all of us in the industry at the moment, is through a quantitative schedule risk analysis process to set those baselines and to understand the exposure they have. The challenge they had is that when challenged back by the British government, they couldn't adequately say where the risk actually was lying within the program and how they could proactively do something about it in a quantitative manner to reduce that risk. That drive led us to develop this piece of AI, and it's actually based on virus spreading models. So it's based on epidemiology. And interestingly enough, we actually deployed this algorithm with the government during COVID to actually simulate the effect on the capital project portfolio based on different government strategies. And what it does, really in essence, is it finds all the critical and near critical paths, and it is able to say for each and every single activity within the program how much that activity statistically can be delayed until it becomes a problem for the wider program, be it for an individual milestone, or be it for a group of milestones, or be it for the end date of the program. Now, what that does is allow management to turn an open question of what is my uncertainty, what is my risk, where do I focus my attention, into a closed question, such as here we can see, what would cause this activity to be delayed by 3.3 days? Do we believe uncertainty or risk exists for that to occur? And if the answer is yes, we need to do something about it, and we can be surgical in how we do that. The business case that we're running, so Mott MacDonald, which is a project consultancy actually across the entire all the continents. They're our global strategic partner on deploying this, and they're deploying it into HS2, and they're looking to reduce the schedule risk budget over the 15-year delivery period by 20%. Here is an element of automation, and this is again is actually quite simple at heart. It's just automating all of the mandrolic schedule reporting processes that have to be done on a monthly or even a weekly basis. So we actually were working with Highways England very close on this. They have a project in the United Kingdom called the A14, which is a £1.4 billion road between Cambridge in the UK and heading to London. And over the 4-year time period, they actually deployed a data lake and Power BI dashboards, and they tried hundreds of dashboards, and they recorded all user data. So they had data on what people actually cared about in their program. And what this is the summation of all of that knowledge. So what we found was 95% of all views and all management questions were actually based on about 15 to 20% of the information that was actually presented. So in the theory of making it simple and making people's jobs easier, this is what this become. Now, what we've seen is actually something very interesting, which is this has dramatically reduced the workload of the project controllers on those projects. And what we've actually seen is actually an increase in the headcount of the project controls teams. And the reason for that is because the project controllers who were specifically looking at the schedule reporting could actually spend less time going through the mandrolic processes of formatting and producing graphs and data, and spend more time working on what the insights actually meant and finding strategic opportunities for the business. Once that process has been established and the directors have seen the results, that's why they started expanding the team, because they're asking the question, what else is in here that I'm not seeing? And finally, this is actually an element, this is one of the areas of development we're looking at the moment. Earlier today, someone talked about using predictive analytics with the weather. This is it. So one of the big questions, everything is geared around, how do we increase the certainty of outcome of the program? One of the things that happens within the energy sector, construction sector, defense sector, if you're talking outbound shipyards, etc., is weather. A big question is the predictability of the failure of tasks and the predictability of durations. We have weather data. We have task data in whatever format, P6 or however people want to store it. All we need to do is link the two of those together, and we've got a streamless system then to give us elements of forward-looking predictability. That's all well and good, but the element that excites me off the top of that is how it actually changes the fundamentals of the business case that surround the projects. So a lot of projects in the UK are under NEC3 contracts, which fundamentally allows for a claim for delay if adverse weather conditions that are outside of historic norms are actually seen. What this fundamentally does, if we can get ahead of the curve, is it allows not only claims to be made more effectively, but it allows the business to take preemptive action to cut any costs that were going to be spent on those days. Putting an even greater spin on that, I've been having some very exciting conversations with the insurance market, so around Lloyd's of London, about providing micro weather insurance on specific days. So there's a huge amount of innovation going on around the space, which is all stemming from project controls here. A nice quote here. HS2 have been very, very kind to us. So it's actually quite interesting. So we finished our last major deployment with HS2 in March, and that was on phase 2. We've actually been asked by PricewaterhouseCoopers to come in and do a full assurance analysis alongside them for phase 2, and are deploying on the subcontractors and the main works contractors in phase 1, all under the banner of risk reduction. Business case. This is actually automated reporting, which I found very, very interesting. Now, if businesses aren't quite at the point where they're still in the Excel mode. This was Highways England on the left when they were in the mode of Excel and PowerPoint, and roughly they were spending about 15,000 man hours over the course of the project in doing schedule reporting. There's actually a middle step in this, which is where they deployed a data lake and a Power BI dashboard. They actually got they didn't make a man-hour saving on the setup. Their setup was around 2,000 hours to actually set up this full system. I think it was about 2,300 hours. But overall, their total man-hours equated to about 8,000. So they managed to cut the reporting burden by 46%. By just building on their learnings and automating things further, that's how we've got this 98 and 87%, which is pretty significant. And just as a couple of final notes here, we do a lot of work with a number of universities around the world. So we're working with, we recently published, we're actually publishing a paper with MIT and the University of Cyprus on faults within the critical path method, and how, when you actually look at actualized data, critical path method and PER are incredibly poor predictors of the risk within projects. But one of the universities that we also work with is the University of Oxford, which is obviously where the major projects institute is from. So this is a slide from a friend of mine, which is Alex Budzier, who sits there. And this really encapsulates the core challenge that all of us are here to actually do. This is the distribution of cost overruns on projects going back about 50 years in the database they have. And what I see here is two challenges. The first challenge is one of risk, which is this long tail. And that is what a lot of AI can be deployed against. The second challenge is one of efficiency and productivity, which is where the median is of all of these projects. And that is about automation, and that is about cloud technologies. And what we're really wanting to do in the future is to take the median of this curve left and to cut off the long tails that lead to dramatic cost overruns. So there's a very final note in terms of getting the innovation juices flowing. So this is actually a very, very short-term look at the data roadmap for one of my teams. So the platform as it sits at the moment, it fully ingests P6 data. It has the automated reporting. It has the augmented schedule risk analysis. It has the advanced visualizations. As of next month, it also will have more advanced schedule checking. So this goes far beyond DCMA 14-point analysis. And actually yesterday I rejected an opportunity for an it was a project assurance exercise. It was crazy. They wanted a 30,000 line item schedule assured within 6 weeks, which is obviously perfectly doable if you've automated most of the process. But then on top of that, they also wanted to understand how they could accelerate that program by 20% whilst holding costs constant. Now that is obviously a very difficult question. We ran it through the AI here, and actually I responded to them and said, you know, they offered a substantial amount of money, and my response was, it's a waste of money. You need to fix your schedule first. Because what we'd come back and say is, you've got fundamental problems. Rework is a massive area, and this is actually where, you know, some of the other presentations today really, really excited me. The data for the effective capturing of rework does not yet exist. But funnily enough, the algorithms to actually solve the problem of predicting rework actually do exist. It's this very strange chicken and egg problem. So what we're fundamentally waiting for is actually data on rework to start coming through the project's ecosystem, and then this problem will be solved pretty quickly. Then we get onto elements of optimization. This is all just about pulling in financial data. It's about understanding incentives. And what it really is about putting project controls at the absolute heart of the business case for why we do projects in the first place. It's not a support function at all. It is how the commercial function fundamentally execute the money into the business processes, and how the financial function execute money out of the business. And then finally, there's elements here about how people actually work together. So a lot of the work, MIT has done a lot of work on how productive people are based on what environments they're in, what kind of work they're doing, and who they're working with. Now, when we create project plans, schedules, procurement plans, etc., what we're fundamentally doing at a resource level is we're dictating how people are going to work together. And that is the underpinnings of productivity. So if we are able to better integrate the knowledge that exists in academia into this space, then what we'll be able to do is actually start to optimize programs for productivity as a whole. So all I wanted to do today is actually give everyone a bit of a vision of where the industry is going right at the forefront, where artificial intelligence and cloud technologies are really coming into this, and to hopefully get a couple of people excited and throwing ideas back and forth. Now, what I've shown today is only a very small snapshot of actually what is going on, but it's a snapshot that is implementable today. You know, this can be in businesses tomorrow, and it's only going to get better, and it's only going to grow. So with that, I'm going to stop there, and I welcome anybody's questions.
Thank you, Greg. A great presentation, great tool. I would like actually to start to ask you in which stage of the project do you see the implementation of the tool? Is it only during the project delivery, or you see also benefit to start straight from the planning stage, tender stage? What is your opinion on that?
Got it. So it is throughout the entire life cycle of construction, and the tool has been used and is being used in the tender stage to help inform the decisions around risk, but its value exponentially grows once detailed schedules have been pulled together, and that is normally post-bidding but pre-startup.
Okay, clear. And you see the users of the platform being only the planners, or
here we go.
Do you think that it will be more it will be exposed to a wider range, such as project managers, risk managers?
Absolutely. So this platform is fully geared to be an augmentation of project controllers. So project controllers control who accesses the platform, but the data content within it is simple enough at points that actually anybody could use it. So it's project managers, it's project directors, it's commercial managers, it's anybody on the project, and it's there to help project controllers do the fundamental jobs that they need to do around schedule reporting, schedule risk, but also, arguably the most important job of project controllers is to communicate and
exactly
incentivize other people to actually act and take action. Does that answer your question?
Yes, indeed, it does. Aldo, any comments from your
Yes,
side?
I have a question.
Yes.
We see that artificial intelligence is still a big black box for most people.
Yes.
And when we are talking about construction companies, contractors, what's the big challenge for a contractor to be part of this AI world? Is it technology? Is it cost? Is it means and methods? What is keeping contractors far from implementing AI?
That's a beautiful question, actually, a beautiful question. So I see three kinds of contractors in the world at the moment. They're the contractors who say, that's far too advanced to us. We don't have the data quality doesn't exist. And that is actually an untrue statement. And quite honestly, I haven't come across a contractor with that viewpoint for at least 2 years now. It was more common 4 or 5 years ago, but now it's really not that common. The only other two contractors I see are the contractors, first and foremost, who say, we can build AI ourselves. And this really comes down to a strategy question. Contractors are good, project contractors and construction contractors are good at delivering construction projects. There is nothing about the skill of delivering construction projects that equips you for developing advanced artificial intelligence, just as there's nothing about developing advanced artificial intelligence that equips you for delivering projects. The final, and what I've seen in that is people develop products that ultimately fail in the marketplace or are overly simplistic, though you can actually get a lot of success at a top line level with cost data. So estimating the outturn cost at a very macroscopic level. The final element of contractors, the ones who understand that actually it takes two core competencies to build and use artificial intelligence. One is knowledge of how to build it, and the second is a deep understanding of how projects actually work and how projects run. So we've got partnerships with quite a number of businesses. So Costain, BAM, Lend-Lease, Mott MacDonald, HS2, etc., where we work very, very closely with them in deeply understanding what is a strategic problem that they need to solve, and then taking a view on, is this an area where a project controller could solve that problem for them? To just finish up on my answer, there is absolutely nothing stopping people using artificial intelligence today to actually use the Aegis platform, which is our platform. You drag and drop a P6 XCR file, and then done, it works. And then it's navigating the data. This is actually, to me, this is a very, very strong show of, this was all developed, these were developed with High-Speed 2, of that very close relationship with the project controllers, because it's not the technology actually doesn't matter. Technology is just a tool, it's like a hammer. What matters is, what are you trying to do? What do you need to be able to show the director to convince them that what you say is correct? So does that answer your question?
Oh, yes. Thanks.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Greg. Well, we are actually now running out of time. I think we during this process we answer almost all of the questions. So I would just ask if Aldo has any specific question at the moment.
I just want to thank our sponsors, Climb Consulting, Andrade Gutierrez, Bureau Veritas, Oficina de Texto, Prevision, Cienge, e Agilin, and to thank the developers, Raildiary, Aphex, TurboCharge, and Nodes&Links. I took notes of many things, insights, information, and my mind is now processing all this information. I think I need an AI tool to help me process all this. And I would like to thank the hundreds of professionals who attended our webinar. I think it was very useful. It was very interesting. It was very full of insights. Thanks, everybody. Joao.
Yes. Just to highlight that we have people from Mozambique, Netherlands, Peru, Costa Rica, a lot of people from Brazil, Portugal, UK, myself in Denmark, Greg in Switzerland, so Santosh in Australia. So yeah, it was a global event with fantastic tools, fantastic people and professionals, which are transforming the engineering and construction industry at the moment. Yes, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with all of you. Also, Aldo Mattos, thank you for the support and for being such a mentor to a huge, large number of professionals around the world. You are definitely an inspiration, and thank you very much for the support. To all the people in live chat, I feel that you can contact directly the developers, Aldo, myself, or Climb Consulting, if you have any questions or further questions. Yeah, thanks a lot, and see you soon, I hope. Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carlos, Greg, Santosh, and William. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for organizing all of this with Aldo. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Santosh.
Very much,
thank you, Carlos. Thank you, William.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and speak soon.
Thank you.
Santosh.
And this webinar was recorded and will be available at YouTube.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Have a good day or
Thank you,
evening.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.